Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Mingalaba. I'm Amrt, and I'm here today to talk about Grab's entry into Myanmar. I think so far, this particular track has been a little bit more on the product and tech side. This particular talk is going to be about blending in tech and business. A quick intro about me. I'm originally from India, grew up in a small town in the state of Odisha. And in the early 2000s, I moved to Singapore to do a dual bachelor's in operations and information systems. And after that, I worked for Barclays Investment Bank for 5 years, and then went to Barcelona for my MBA, where I got introduced to the world of startups. Post that, I had my first amazing startup experience at Uber, an early member of the team that launched Uber products across Southeast Asia. And after that, I got the privilege to join Grab to bring Grab to Myanmar. So I was the first boots on the ground and had the privilege to launch Grab Taxi Plus, and Grab Bike across 2 cities in Yangon and Mandalay. Post that, I got the chance to build out WavePay, Myanmar's first super app. Over the last couple of years, I've been building Carzuno. It's a car subscription marketplace across Singapore and Thailand. Today, the focus of our talk is the launch of Grab in Myanmar. So I landed in Myanmar in January 2017. Myanmar is the golden land. That's Shwedagon, one of my favorite places to hang out. In 2017, Myanmar was bustling, seeing really high growth rates, and it was one of the last frontier markets for any company to look at for expansion. The picture on the left-hand side, well, right-hand side for you guys, is that of a bank in Myanmar handling cash, the everyday cash, right in front of the customer counters. Myanmar taxis before Grab. It was all about street hails, non-stop haggling to find the right price in the absence of a clear regulatory framework. That plus, you can see there were idling drivers at one of the most busiest roads in Yangon, that's the Bojo Kongsan road. And all in all, it led to a very suboptimal experience for both passengers and drivers. So it was a 6 months to 1 year project to getting Grab on the ground, delivered fast and furious. It all began with researching. So the first key step to understanding any market is to understand the customer. And in our case, there were 3 main types of customers. It was our passengers, our drivers, and any stakeholder, government and corporate. One of the first key steps which we undertook was reach out to potential corporate partners, engage the government on a very proactive manner. So as soon as I landed in January 2017, one of the first steps we took was to present to the Yangon region chief minister and the transport minister. Post that, we also presented our plan to the union level transport minister, and therefore, in a way, we did not seek for regulatory approval, but we got regulatory blessing because we kept them in the loop of all our plans. Actually, I'm not sure if it's not that clear. Again, so as part of the initial research phase, understanding the market landscape, talking to the stakeholders, the next step was to build a business plan to get approval from the Grab management committee, building out the hiring plan, and getting the budget in place. Once all the boxes were ticked, we decided to just accelerate and kick off. We started the legal entity incorporation. Given Myanmar was a relatively new market for a foreign ride-hailing player, we had to sit in very closely with our legal counterpart on the ground, make our local legal counsel understand what the Grab business model was about, how the taxation worked for us. And then we had to work very closely with the local Myanmar banks to try open a bank account. Because not that many players like Grab were entering, and we also had very quick timelines in mind. Setting up the office, hiring the launch team, and then leading up to customizing the website, the driver app, the passenger app. So one key thing we did in the beginning was we benchmark our competition really closely. There were three main players. So we benchmarked them, we learned from them, and we executed faster than them. Before we launch, some of the key things we tried to factor in was just to have some basic localization, which we call BAU stuff. Simple things like Myanmar flag was not updated in our app customer journey at that point of time. We also had to do extensive work to support Zaoji, which is one of the local character sets used by Burmese apps at that point, versus the standard Unicode set. Our team also had to undertake work with Google in order to enable maps in the country. As you can imagine, Google Maps is a very intricate part of enabling the routing, the search functions within the Grab driver and passenger apps. And in terms of new innovation, coming from my time in Uber, we decided to remove destination from the driver job card for Grab in Myanmar. It was the first such country that happened, and it led to improved match rates and therefore improved efficiency for our customers. So when we were benchmarking our competition in the previous slide, as you saw, one of the things we realized that our competition was suffering because they were competing against cash. Drivers in cash-heavy markets, they prefer cash because it's immediate gratification. And in a place like Myanmar, the banking penetration was very low, and that means that there was a lot of, well, every driver we met was unbanked. So in order to solve for that, we created a simple solution. We worked with one of the partners, and we got them to set up on-premise onboarding for instant activation for Grab drivers. So in the period of 1 year, we basically created 20,000 bank drivers. Some other mini tweaks we undertook. So as part of scaling Grab in any country or any ride-hailing business, typically we kick off with a ground sales force. The job of the ground team is to go around, go to the airports, go to the tea shops, go to anywhere you may find taxis or cars that are willing to drive on the app, and you sign them up. But in Myanmar, there's a lengthy monsoon season. So we had a team sitting in the office, don't know how to hit the targets, and there we had a brainwave. We decided to leverage Facebook. So we started doing Facebook ads, first such ads in Southeast Asia for Grab, where we started just a simple lead gen to get driver phone numbers, and we restructured the team to start calling the drivers, getting them interested in Grab, and then get them to come into the office to get onboarded and start driving with us. Okay, just to go back a bit. So again, the slide is not that clear because the font is too small. But the way we designed the launch was a tiered launch. So we designed a beta trial with limited coverage to be launched within the first 3 months of me landing in Yangon. And the goal of that launch was to learn from our customers and keep iterating and use the data, use the learnings to finesse our people, process, product strategy. There's a lot of talk about finding product market fit. A lot of startups unlaunch products. A lot of companies give up. But my belief, especially with my experience at Grab and Uber, is that it's about finessing the product market fit. So we learned from our beta. We refined our marketing strategy. We found our key marketing message. And we tried to paint the town green. And basically, you can see, post our beta, we landed on the tagline, safe, comfortable, and fixed fares. As I mentioned before, before we entered Myanmar taxi was predominated by haggling, street hailing. The fact that we've bought the world of transparent fixed fares to the customers was a big value proposition to the people in Myanmar. And then we branded 100 taxis with full green Grab branding, driving around in all the main areas of Yangon. And that led to a lot of good brand recognition for Grab. Again, this is some of our first office. In the beginning, we kicked off the beta trial from a simple meeting room in one of the hotels in Yangon. The second two pictures are of our second office, or version 1 of our second office. As you can see, once we got traction, our office is just crowded and overflowing with drivers. And this is what basically led to our official launch. So our official launch was so we did the beta launch in March 2017, and our official launch was the end of July 2017. We took a period of few months to learn, build government relationships, go and talk to the Yangon chief minister, the union level ministries more, and we launched in a big event in end of July with blessings from everyone. And in this picture on the right-hand side for you guys, you can see that the official launch was graced by the Yangon region chief minister. And that again, so it's a combination of government support, good PR, good marketing, which led to a quick growth for Grab in Myanmar. So the other thing I want to bring across here is how to drive the go-to-market strategy with partnerships. So from day one, as I landed, one key pillar for me was partner development. So I went on the ground, started talking to the big telcos, the big banks, the big mobile wallet players, trying to figure out what are the low-hanging fruits in the partnership for Grab. The easiest thing we can do, we can give them a promo code to give to their customer bases. But at the same time, some of them were more interested to do other things. Telenor, for example, they helped us subsidize data plans and phone sets for our drivers, helping us bring down our driver acquisition costs. They also helped do co-branding with taxis for us. Basically, we had about 200 co-branded taxis with Telenor, where they were half Grab, half Telenor, driving all around Yangon. CB Bank was our initial bank partner. They helped us support daily payouts. And why this is critical, because there were players like Uber who would be paying out their drivers once a week, the money coming from overseas, taking about 10 days to hit the driver bank accounts, while we were competing with cash, doing daily payouts. At the end of the day, the money ending up in the drivers' CB bank accounts, and the drivers being able to withdraw it from any ATM in Yangon. Again, down the line, as we move past the official launch, we tried to wean ourselves off some driver incentives. So we stopped giving them phones, and we created a handset financing program for drivers. This was a win-win situation for Grab, Samsung, CB Bank, because we basically created a plan where, well, CB Bank would lock down the driver phones if the drivers didn't pay. We also did a partnership with one of the biggest mall chains in Myanmar. It's called the Junction Group Malls. They're owned by Shwetong. And we also partnered with Essilor as part of a regional partnership, providing free eye checkers for our drivers. Again, like all of you must have taken Grab or Uber across Southeast Asia or across the world. And you must have seen like a lot of the times that when we launch with a huge amount of promotions, both on the customer side and the driver side. But again, that's not how this works. The purpose for any promotion, any incentive is to drive education, right? So it's meant for initial period, post which the marketplace is supposed to sustain itself. And again, like the purpose is to learn from the data and also find out what's the optimal pricing point. So the point at which demand will be organic, the point at which drivers will get enough jobs to drive. And that's the strategy which we employed in Myanmar. So we used the first few months to understand how the demand and how the driver needs were evolving. And using the data, we did a price cut towards Q4. And with that, we dropped all customer promotions and we lowered driver incentives. But I mean, thankfully, and as expected in a way, we still saw growth, healthy month-on-month growth. Lower prices led to higher demand. Higher demand led to more driver jobs, and driver earnings were retained and kept increasing despite the price cut. And that's what sustainable growth looks like for Uber and Grab on the long term. Myanmar after Grab, so this is basically my last slide. So we delivered transparent, safe, comfortable, appropriately priced rides for customers, and we improved efficiencies and earnings for our drivers. But again, some things don't change. There's traffic on the road before Grab, there's traffic after Grab. But at least we try our best to transform transportation, transform the digital economy in the country. So that brings me to an end to my presentation, and happy to take any questions.
We have a question now.
Hi, thank you so much for your talk. It was very interesting. Can you share a little bit more about the partnerships that you did? As on the bottom, you mentioned something about in the mall, and you had this partnership with Essilor for the eye checks. What do you offer in return, and how do you approach these partnerships?
Again, so for Shwetong, it was a in-kind partnership. So what we did was Shwetong at that point had about 4 to 6 malls in Yangon. We put in Grab fabricated booths, like the ones which you see at the Chiang Mai airport or the Phuket airport these days. We did mini booths right at the taxi or the private car pickup spots for these malls. And we offered their customers promo codes. So again, for these malls, they need foot traffic, right? So they are happy to partner with us. And again, they're happy to associate themselves with a up-and-coming brand like Grab in Myanmar. So that was a win-win situation with Shwetong. With Essilor, it was more of a regional partnership. And again, a lot of things which we achieved in Myanmar, especially deals with Samsung, Essilor, were with the support of our regional business development team. Essilor was more of a event-based driver checkup thing, which we offered to our drivers. Typically for Grab, we would organize a driver welfare event once every quarter, sometimes coffee chats once every month. And we try to partner with some partners for those events to come in and try provide different sort of rewards or benefits for our partners. So Essilor is one of them. This is back in early 2018, where we did a partnership with Essilor for eye checkups. Any more questions?
Okay, hello. Thank you for your sharing. So I want to ask, except I'm here. I think you're looking for me. So except for you have a PR campaign when you launch and you do the partnership, I want to know, do you spend a lot of budget for advertising and offline promotion? Because I used to see, but at the startup stage, it will be a lot of cost for your business, right?
Agree, right? So again, I have to caveat this, right? I was not a startup, right? I was lucky that I had a backing of a unicorn behind me. Of course, when I went to Myanmar, again, the initial budget I got was some limited amount of money for the first 3 to 6 months. Actually, I got 250K in the first approval, and a huge part of it went to actually driver acquisition. But you're right. Over the period of our year and setting up the marketing, quarterly planning, annual planning process, we do have clear budgets for branding, getting our billboards up and running at the Yangon airport, at all the intersections in Yangon. At the same time, Facebook, we did not push too much in the beginning because we believe in unlocking Facebook on a later stage. But that's all part and parcel. I would say that actually by August 2017, we were probably spending more on Grab Facebook driver ads than customer ads, because it was very easy for us to get customers. In the early days, the cost of acquisition for customers in Myanmar was fairly cheap. And given that Grab had a good brand through running billboards, right? We had cars with Grab branding driving around. Big companies like Telenor, CB Bank partnering with Grab. So we were always in the news for different partnerships. So it created like a good aura around the public perception, right? So I didn't have to spend too much money initially on Facebook and Google. Towards later, half of the year went a bit more towards Facebook. But again, like we're also doing promotion. So, it's always easy it's a pull mechanism to get customers to try Grab and be on Grab.
Okay, thank you.
I think there is a question over there.
Thank you for the presentation. Could you expand a little bit more about the team, the initial team composition, who helped you on the ground?
Sure. Again, so let me just park it on this slide, which is not, well, there's no slide here. Okay, sorry. But basically, again, like towards the end of the year, we had about 80 full-timers and part-timers on the team. But in the beginning, it was a small crack team of about 6 people, right? Mostly on the operation side to help talk to drivers, acquire drivers. And again, like if I bring you back to the slide, right? Like, so you can see me, actually it's not that clear, but you can see me staring at my Burmese head of operations and trying to understand, like, is he saying the right thing? Because we were talking to the government and, the conversation in the beginning was mostly in Burmese. And I was trying to make sense, right? Like, is this going in the right way? Is it the right message being delivered? But yeah, we started off very simple, right? So in terms of any marketplace, like supply comes first. So we hired like a head of ops to help start building that up. And then over time, we bring in the marketing folks, right? So, and then as we launch, we start bringing in the customer service stuff. So again, that's like the 3 key functions which Grab would typically launch in a market. And again, I would say Myanmar was a fairly lean launch compared to most of the Grab markets because one of my goals was to try combine the Uber lean launch methodology. Uber, you should launch with like 2 people in every market. But again, because of Grab's historical setup in terms of process, people, and product, we could not achieve that. But yeah, I mean, we try to do the next best thing. So we had a fairly lean team. So it's not that clear in the picture here, but on the left-hand side, we have basically our team onboarding the 5 pioneer Grab alpha drivers. So we onboarded them, and we were keeping in constant communication with them to try and understand their feedback, crafting the beta trial based on that. And again, I think that initial team is very important. So in terms of team composition, I had to make sure that my leads were bilingual in terms of being well-versed with Burmese, being able to talk to the people on the ground, as well as trying to translate for me to understand. Again, I would say that the level of English in Myanmar is not bad. I would say most of them actually understand basic stuff if I speak slow enough. But I think having the right people is one of the key ways to succeed. And I was lucky that we had a great team, initial team, and over time we hired some stellar folks. And I've one anecdote here, right? So actually, when I was in Myanmar doing my research, I was told that there's a very high employee attrition rate in Myanmar. People typically jump every 6 months to 1 year, even, or less than 1 year. Grab, I'm proud to say that a lot of kids started with us when they were like 21 to 24-year-olds. They stayed with us for 3 to 5 years, some much more longer than me. So again, and a lot of them basically moved on to join like the likes of Food Panda, the banks, different other digital apps in Myanmar. Some of them even stepped out of the country. So very proud of that. And again, that's what sort of happens when you enable like a regional powerhouse like Grab to come in and sort of set up the company with the right processes, people, and product. Any more questions?
Yeah, sorry. I will stand up because I heard it's hard for you to see who's talking.
Thank you so much.
So my name is Julius. I've been living in Russia when Uber started there, and before they were bought by Yandex, which basically is Grab of Russia, I'd say. They did have some visits from, I call it a taxi lobby, into their offices, mostly without any paperwork, but bats. Did you have any experience like this, problems with the taxi companies that have been practicing their businesses in Myanmar? Because even in Germany, obviously there was no mafia, but they had big protests and scratched the Uber cars when they started. Has been anything similar like that in Myanmar?
So I would say that I was lucky that I try to learn from my prior experiences. So I spent 2 years in Uber. Was very lucky to kick off at Uber Singapore, where regulatory-wise we were fairly clear, and no taxi companies need to visit us. And I also got to learn from my colleagues across Southeast Asia on how things went in Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia. And again, a lot of these countries have delicate regulatory situations when it comes to ride-hailing. So when I went to Myanmar, the first thing I did was just talk to people. So I talked to the government, I talked to the taxi authority, I talked to all the taxi associations. So even before Grab, even before we sort of did our first test trip, I had already talked to all stakeholders and they knew me. And at the same time, one key promise I made to the Yangon Chief Minister before launch is that I will work with Yangon Red Plates, which is taxis, and we will help make this segment efficient before we move into black cars or private cars, right? So, and that's something which they loved. So everybody from the government, everybody from the Yangon taxi lobbies, they really appreciated our approach because of that commitment which I made from day one. And actually, we are still honoring that commitment because there are no private cars to be onboarded on ride-hailing in Myanmar yet. But yeah, I think that sort of helped us along the way. And again, I think that Myanmar people are very kind and generous and helpful. Thankfully, I was not bullied, so I had a happy journey there. You're welcome. Any more questions?
I think we had a question over there.
Yes, that's right. This green shirt is like 7 years old, and my mom purchased it when I joined Grab.